Astronauts discovered a massive face on Mars, and it may now assist them in resolving them. The origins of humanity are a mystery. The story begins in the year 2020 in Dickinson, Texas. Astronauts and their families, as well as friends, are having a good time at a celebration marking the departure of the first Mars mission. Woody and his wife Terry are also getting ready for the trip, but it will only be the two of them. Terry jokes that flying together strengthens their bond, but no one knows what he means. What awaits them on this trip into space? Luke, the ship's commander, is concerned that his colleague and friend Jim did not attend the ceremony. Celebration. Luke is also sad about his last night, but his wife cheers him up and tells him not to worry. Say goodbye to their young son. He promises to read his favorite book to the boy every night, regardless of where he is, as if they were reading it at the same time. After all, Jim does show up to the party. Luke is overjoyed to see him. By the end of the night, Woody, Jim, and Luke are already planning their next flight. They recall Jim's name, a highly accomplished pilot. He even landed a malfunctioning ship once. Jim was supposed to go to Mars on the first mission, but he had to cancel due to his wife's illness. The flight preparations are being disrupted. Luke now takes his place, as he has been preparing. The man feels guilty in front of his friend. For a period of 12 years, Jim assures Luke that everything is fine and wishes him a pleasant day. Flight. Despite the fact that the man is clearly upset, 13 months have passed. The ship's crew. Mars 1 lands near Cardona, and a remote-controlled camera drives across the planet, surface of the desert planet, and gathers data. Suddenly, the team notices a strange, bright white formation 16 kilometers away. Location. The team determines that it is not volcanic ash, but rather ice. But why should there be? Is there ice on Mars? They decide to notify the International Space Station and set out to investigate. At the Mars Expedition Control Center, they can investigate the object for themselves. The time has come. Running 20 minutes behind the station personnel. Jim is among them, and he is watching a team video feed. Lucasfilm offices that a groundwater discharge is a mysterious phenomenon. And if it is true, they have found a way to prove it, set up shop on the planet. Meanwhile, the Mars 1 team has arrived at the anomalous location. Occurrence. Suddenly, the team members begin to notice a strange, low sound. The rover's interference was misinterpreted. As they approach the mountain, the astronauts activate the radar to determine what it is. The radar detects metal beneath the entire mountain. The group decides to check the formation once more and boost the radar power. The signal is suddenly cut off. There is also complete silence. The crew members are perplexed. Within seconds, a massive, as if it were a living creature, the whirlwind begins to rise around the mountain. It pursues and crushes the astronauts one by one. Rocks fly into the air and collide into people with tremendous force. While the whirlwind consumes everything in its path, a massive sand vortex. The vortex dissipates, and it is revealed that the mysterious mountain is a volcano. As a result of the disaster, a massive humanoid face has appeared. The space station notices something unusual. A powerful burst of energy management brings together all team members to decide how to proceed. Woody, Terry, and technician Phil arrive at the station, where they are informed of the severity of the situation. The catastrophe. A faint signal is received from the Mars 1 mission camp, indicating that after all, the crew survived. The crew responds to Luke's distress call. The terrified man describes what happened to his crew in a confused manner. He recalls the low sound they made. The rest of the crew was attacked and decimated by an unexplained phenomenon. Because the powerful pulse knocked out all the computers, there is no way to contact anyone. Luke has returned. The station realizes that the only way to find out what happened and try to prevent it from happening again is to assist Luke, send a Mars mission to him. Phil suddenly realizes that the Saturn, a research satellite, is in Mars orbit and can be reprogrammed to explore the planet. Camp Mars 1. However, the station manager claims that a launch will not be possible for another 8 months. Jim, on the other hand, has a plan. He already done the math and determined that they can fly. By reducing the ship's load and taking more fuel, you can get out sooner. Ray was the commander's name. initially disagrees with Jim's optimism, but the man proves that everything will work out in the end, because he was the one who developed the evacuation plan for the Mars mission. After all, Woody supports Jim's idea, and Ray concurs. Woody double-checks with Ray on the situation. The composition of the team. He insisted on Jim being the co-pilot. Ray is opposed because Jim has not been cleared to fly, because of the man refused to take the few remaining psychological tests, illness, and the death of his wife. However, Woody persuades the commander, "You give me McConnell's co-pilot, and we'll get Luke back home." That is a guarantee. For the past 174 days, the Mars 2 mission has been traveling. Phil is putting together he made a candy DNA model of his ideal woman. Jim inquires after consuming one of the candies. Whose DNA is it now? Phil thinks it's a frog now. Woody notices a dust storm on the road. That is, heading straight for the Mars 1 expedition camp. He informs Jim that he will need to speed up and get ahead of schedule because for an entire year, a storm will cover the entire planet. Finally, the satellite's data arrives. As they approach another area, the team discovers that the Mars 1 ship is still intact. They notice there are 3 graves. Luke could still be alive and well, scanning the area for radiation level. The team notices unusual interference on the screen. Woody mentions the earthquake, that this couldn't have happened 6 months ago, but Jim is certain it wasn't caused by an earthquake. The entire ship's crew, as well as the crew of the space station, are very excited about the mission. The arrival of the second Mars mission. Ray grants permission to land it the following morning. "Your little girl." Meanwhile, Jim thinks about his late wife, Maggie, and watches old videos. They met at the Air Force Academy, married, and went on to command the Mars 1 base. Maggie envisioned herself landing on Mars and solving the planet's mysteries. She was certain there was something incomprehensible there. Jim, too, is eager to reach them. At any cost, the truth must be revealed. Woody fills the hole at the last second. The pressure has finally leveled off. Woody wants to inspect the entire hull because it still has many scratches on it. However, by doing so, the ship is now ready to enter orbit. Phil instructs Woody to return immediately. The man exits without ever thoroughly inspecting the hull. The crew is still in the dark. That at this time, they have made a fatal error. Phil starts the engine and activates the use of fuel injection. However, no one had reported another breach in the engine's fuel line. Some of the fuel is launched into space. The countdown begins, and Phil prepares to press the start button. "Let us travel to Mars." The fuel ignites and damages the ship as the engine starts. The systems are not responsive to commands. The engine cannot be turned off. The ship will fall through the atmosphere. 3 minutes to burn. In a panic, the crew discovers that the supply module, which was left in Mars 1's orbit, is only a kilometer away. The astronauts put on their spacesuits and began their mission. Decide to venture into open space in the hope of finding the module. The crew discovers that the supply module is not where they thought it was after leaving the ship. Would be and is moving far too quickly. Woody decides to fly to the module using his rocket pack and connect it to a tether. However, the fuel quickly runs out, forcing Woody to switch to drop the propulsion and enter autonomous flight mode. The man is already on his way to the module, but he is unable to stop. He slams into the module, manages to secure the tether, but is unable to latch on and flies past, continuing to fall to the ground. Mars. He can no longer change his flight because the autonomous system is shut down. Course. His colleagues immediately want to follow him, but Woody stops them. The jetpack lacks sufficient power to fly there and back. Woody realizes that this is it. Meanwhile, the rest of the crew obtains a foothold on the module. Terry abruptly disconnects her tether. She wishes to help her. Husband must be avoided at all costs. Woody tries to talk her out of it, but she is adamant, seeing as there is only 51 fuel left for the return flight. The woman comes to a halt. Terry launches her harpoon, and Woody reaches out, hoping that the length will suffice. But he's already too far away, and the cable is only half a meter long. Terry is about to take off in a plane, a little closer and try again. But Woody realizes she won't be able to fly any further. Return. He tells Terry that he loves her and will not allow her to do this. "I adore you to the core of my being." But Woody removes his helmet and immediately freezes. That is on its way to covering the entire planet. Luke claims it has been here for a long time and came from the enigmatic mountain. I'm guessing Jim and the rest of the crew don't believe him. Every astronaut. Return to the vessel. Luke attempts to explain the mystery he must solve here. Following all, there had been millions of years of meteor falls, sandstorms, and other natural disasters. The lava flows. The planet's surface had changed as a result of all of this, and they couldn't see it. Luke turns on the computer, which displays the mountain in the shape of a face. What they see astounds the astronauts. Jim requests that Luke turn on the sound. Before the storm, I heard. Luke begins the recording by stating that this specific sound is the key. During the course of the second mission, Luke discovered that the strange sounds are a series of repeating mathematical symbols. He connected the sound groups. Using a coordinate system, I created a DNA model. Luke believes it's a portrait of the creature who made the face. The surprised astronauts notice that it isn't quite human because the model lacks the last pair of limbs. Chromosomes. They do not, however, understand why. As I was going through the supply, Jim inadvertently spills Phil's candy and recalls how they played with the DNA model. He realizes that the sounds made by the face and the DNA model derived from them are related. Sounds are not a portrait. This is a test. The expression is awaiting an answer to a question. The first mission's astronauts, they should have included the missing pair of chromosomes to prove their humanity. Instead, they pointed the radar, which was misinterpreted as the wrong answer, and the face turned red, defensive. It is now up to the surviving astronauts to discover what happens when this occurs. The mysterious face receives the correct response. Jim offers to figure out which tones correspond to which chromosomes are missing. He intends to make a message out of the resulting sound. Phil and Terry are skeptical. What if they don't? Are your assumptions incorrect? After all, do they not share the same fate as the first crew? However, Jim insists, because if they leave without finding out, it means their friends have died in vain. Vain. Luke has a plan to keep them away from the face, and the recording will be sent along with it. A camera that can be controlled remotely. The sound sources are placed close to the Martian face by the team. As soon as the augmented DNA signal stops, in the face an entrance appears. It produces a blinding white light. This reaction is viewed as an invitation by the astronauts. Jim, Terry, and Luke approach the face. Jim orders Phil to leave the ship while he remains on board. Appointed time. Even if they do not return, the astronauts enter a room with white walls and the door closes behind them. They lose contact with Phil and realize they're trapped. Jim suddenly realizes that there is an Earth-like atmosphere inside the giant face. The astronauts remove their helmets with care. Suddenly, an airlock appears behind them. The team enters without hesitation. They see a massive three-dimensional object in a dark room. The solar system is projected. Soon after, a hologram of a Martian appears, revealing astronauts discover the origins of life on Earth. He's sobbing. A giant existed in the distant past. An asteroid similar to Mars struck the Earth, destroying its entire ecosystem. The Martians departed for another galaxy, but one ship was dispatched to Earth. They sent their message inside. DNA, and it is thanks to those cells that life has evolved on our planet. The first multicellular plants. The entire Martian face transforms into a pillar of light. The ship carrying Jim rises through the fire. Phil, Luke, and Terry successfully escape from Mars via the porthole. They notice Jim on the ship, heading in the direction of a galaxy. What do you think Jim will find out there? What mysteries will he unearth on other planets? Leave your thoughts in the comments section. Give us a call. Like and follow the channel. See you in the following videos.